starts crying when I leave. So, but he'll just have to deal with it because I'm going to have to tell him that I'm leaving from now on. Oh, also, I have my, well, I didn't do my paper thing until Sunday.
Yeah.
So it was a little harder. I should have, but it was late on when we got home Thursday, so I didn't do it then, even though I should have just.
Well, you were the first one to turn yours in.
Oh, I was?
Well, I didn't check the.
I was way late.
I didn't check my Northwestern account, so hopefully everybody got theirs turned in.
Because I had it done Sunday, and then I do this thing with papers. I type it, and then I think, well, I don't know that I want to send it for sure yet. What if I want to change it? So I save it all delete, and of course I never do anything to
Right.
it.
Well, at least you got it done. You don't have to worry about it.
But I do that with every paper. I'll get it done, and then I'll save it thinking that I want to make changes to it, and then I never do. So I don't know why I save it.
Nice. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, sir.
Good. I kind of liked you at the instructions desk better.
Yeah,
It made the room look smaller.
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't look so lonely.
Thank you.
Well, it'll take me just a minute to get the PowerPoint pulled up, and I'll make sure we have everybody with us.
Okay.
Well, nice. Did you have a chance to do the? Did you have a chance to do our assignment?
The journal?
The journal, yes.
Yes, I did it actually the same day of class. When I went back home, I finished it.
All right.
It's just I had, I don't know, like my week was so busy the rest of that week. And I got to remember to put the finishing touches on it today, and so I mailed it today like about maybe 10 minutes before I got here.
Okay, no worries. That worked.
Yeah.
I think Lauren did something similar. She did it after class and then was going to spruce it up later. It's okay, just as long as it gets done, shows that you put some thought into class. So.
Okay.
Let's see here. Sonia, are you out there somewhere in cyberspace that I can't see? I'm used to calling in, so.
Did you have to call in already? Or was it
No,
just
they told me that this should run itself, so I don't touch anything. But they had problems with
that?
Ponca.
I don't know if she's truly just not like there, or if it doesn't have them connected.
Well, Leandra is still with us, just via video. So that's part of the reason for the journal assignments. So I know that people are staying up with class. Let's see here. I'm going to check remote cameras one more time before we get started. Well, Sonia, if you are out there, please feel free to buzz in anytime. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm hoping that if you're not there, you at least get the video. So we're all good. We can proceed. So let's get the computer up. Okay. Did everybody check the Blackboard this week? Lauren and Nice.
I did Tuesday night.
Okay. I will try to have. I've had.
I did it.
You did not, Nice. Okay.
No.
Okay. That's okay because our PowerPoints will be available. So you're welcome to take notes as we go forward. I'll try to have those up. I've had complaints from my classes before that I get them up like the day of class, and so I'll try to get them up a little bit earlier. But I'm not going to promise. I will at least have them the day of class ready for folks. So what I would like to go over today, and we all remember from last week our long addictions class about why people become addicted and the neurochemical reasoning why people are addicted and what happens with the brain, especially on methamphetamine and cocaine and drugs of that nature. What I'd like for us to get today is to get a basic understanding of what different substances do, and again, you know, if we're talking about an addiction to gambling or addiction to porn or sex or whatever, you know, the chemicals are most similar. I would equate those chemicals to the presentation we did last week. However, we know that many substances are addictive. I would argue that the argument that I made with dopamine is at work at some point in each one of these chemicals on a certain level. Now, maybe not as powerfully, and as, you know, it's pretty simple to understand. You take methamphetamine, all the dopamine in your brain's out in your system. You know, that's a pretty simple, and that's why I started there, because those are a simple way to understand why people crave. It's that survival chemical, and it's what's making people's brain even lie to itself. So you need this, you know, on a very basic survival type of level. So I started there purposely, but I do want us to get into other substances. So when we're counseling families, when we're counseling folks, we know what to look for. So if you need to make a diagnosis while you're counseling, you can, you know, have the ability to make that diagnosis. So I'll go ahead and start with alcohol. Okay, Nice. Does the PowerPoint show up at your place there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. All right, what happens when a person takes a drink of alcohol?
I think it doesn't remain as alcohol. It breaks down as it enters the body and gets transformed into different kinds of chemicals and energies and all that. And also it does affect different, should I call it reaction, or different organs and hormones in the body. And so eventually the person, when all those things are affected, depending on the amount of alcohol they've consumed, that person will begin to show reactions that can be observed from the outside as a result of what's happening in the inside. I don't know, that's the best I can explain.
That's pretty good. That's pretty comprehensive in just a couple of sentences. That was not bad. That is kind of what I'm looking for. Has anybody ever drank in the class before? Raise your hand if you've ever had a drink of alcohol. Nice, you've never had a drink. Wow. All right. That's impressive. If you're looking at statistics in the United States, 7 out of 10 people drink. You know, roughly. If you have 10 people standing up, there'd be 7 of them in that group just randomly that would be drinkers. Now, not every one of those folks are going to be alcohol dependent. Most of those folks that are in that lineup, you know, may have a drink a week or a drink on occasion, or, you know, it's not going to be, you know, a daily, you know, sort of circumstance. Probably not going to have tolerance or withdrawal. Most folks in that lineup are going to be able to conduct themselves drinking on a social level without too much dysfunction. 10%, one out of 10 of those folks that you see will be alcohol dependent. And that's just what the statistics tell us. It's how prevalent alcoholism is. So if you think of 10% of a population being dependent upon a substance, that's quite a bit. When you think about 311 million people in the United States, that's 31 million people that are alcoholics. That's a high number. If you look at costs socially, if you look at if you look at you know, you weigh out, okay, which drug causes us the most problems in our society? One could easily make an argument for alcohol. When you look at ER visits, when you look at you know, health problems, you can combine all illegal substances together and not even get close to the one substance being alcohol. The number one cause of death for people aged 15 to 24, car wrecks, and specifically alcohol-related car wrecks. So it is a very dangerous substance. And many people in our society have difficulty with it. So what happens then? I'll go on the less scientific explanation now. What happens when a person takes a drink of alcohol? What happens to a person? How do you feel, Lauren? Not that I want to cast aspersions on your character or anything, but
Wow. The only one that raised my hand.
hello. Oh, no, here's the book.
Thank you so much. Sorry to disrupt you.
Question, what happens when I take a drink?
Yeah, or what? Hey, Sonia joined us. All right, I see Sonia.
Oh yes, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, I was hopeful that you would jump in. How long have you been with us?
You were talking. You were on Blackboard opening up the PowerPoint, and you had asked Nice if she could see it.
Okay, so you've got us. All right.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Okay.
And oh, I raised my hand too, by the way.
Okay, I didn't see that.
Sorry.
I think you have to buzz in to be able to get. I'm trying.
Oh.
I pushed just about every button on this thing, trying to get.
I can't see you unless I talk.
Yeah, I can't see you unless you talk. And now Nice has disappeared. Are you still out there, Nice?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. Well, and I was a little bit late too, so I was having some issues.
Well, that's okay. You're here now. That's what counts. Well, so when a person takes a drink, what happens to them? How does that person feel?
A little more relaxed.
Yes, a little more relaxed. What else?
I know when I. Oh, I'm sorry, Nice. Go ahead.
I was just about to say, like, for those I've observed, they seem to be happy at some point.
Yes.
Not all of that.
Not always, but that does seem to happen, and so there's definitely some dopamine release. Like I said last week, it wasn't always known that, but dopamine does get released paradoxically because more often than not, alcohol tends to depress our symptoms. You know, we looked at last week being a depressant. So alcohol is absorbed, although, I've heard of many stories these days where people are ingesting alcohol in all different sorts of ways. And we won't go into all of those for sake of argument, and hopefully we won't have to worry about that. But most generally, traditionally, alcohol is consumed through the mouth. And so what's the first thing that happens? Where does alcohol go? To the stomach, absolutely.
Travels down the, yeah.
Travels down the esophagus to the stomach. How long does it take somebody before they start to feel an effect of alcohol? Does it happen just
Well,
like,
when I used,
Not just like that.
okay, Sonia, what were you going to say?
I was just gonna say that when I used to consume alcohol, it didn't take very long for me, but I don't know if it was just because I had a low tolerance or what.
That's okay.
About 30 minutes.
That's not a bad thing. About 30 minutes. Yes, that's a good. Yeah, it takes about 30 minutes. So if you're comparing that to another drug, say like THC, marijuana, or methamphetamine, cocaine, this is a relatively slow-acting substance, and it has a lot to do with how it's administered. If a person were to somehow smoke alcohol, somehow take that in through the lungs, it would go directly to the bloodstream. So somehow when it gets down here to the, in our bodies, it gets absorbed. Where does most of the absorption happen? Lauren, nice, yes, very good answer. Most of it actually happens in the small intestine. About 15% of alcohol is consumed, is ingested into the bloodstream through the stomach. Primarily, though, 85% is absorbed through the small intestine. So what would happen if someone, let's say it's because I just had some chicken and balsamic vinegar and garlic bread, and let's say that this was vodka, and I took a big shot of vodka. How long is that going to take then with the food in my stomach to enter my system?
Longer.
It will take longer, absolutely. And so when you're treating people that that have problems with alcohol, you will notice that these folks tend to consume alcohol on an empty stomach. They don't want to mess up that buzz. They want that immediate fixation. And so that's something to look for when you're working with people. Are they drinking on alcohol on an empty stomach? Because they're looking for that immediate effect as quickly as possible. And what if I drank beer versus vodka? It would take even longer because the beer is more diluted. So if you're having somebody go into the bar, give me 3 shots of tequila. I had one of our therapists ask, a little girl talked to her about, well, my grandmother drinks, and so the girl is 8, and hopefully not most 8-year-olds know a lot about what people are drinking and what they're doing. So she decided to ask in some roundabout ways what she drinks. Well, what she drinks? Well, she drinks. I think that she drinks vodka, and so she knew. She's showing some, unfortunately, too much insight there. And so, well, how does she drink it? Well, she drinks it from a plastic bottle. And so, we know a little bit about this lady's consumption, because I gave everybody the case study last week. So if we had drinks daily through a plastic bottle does not mix her vodka, what are we gonna think in our mind, at least clinically?
That she probably has a problem.
That you're gonna edge toward what Sonia was saying, that this lady has a significant problem, or what Nice was saying, that this lady has a significant problem. So we have 30 minutes is not a bad. It's 20 to 30 minutes, I would say, is about right to begin some significant absorption. And then so it goes into the bloodstream. And why does alcohol then have an effect on people? Why does it start to do these things?
Starts to release the chemicals in your, well, it alters the brain chemicals.
Absolutely. Good answer. Good answer. It does alter the brain chemicals, and that's what we're going to get into. So if you look, and this is an important concept for us with addiction, and really it speaks a lot to any type of counseling, mental health counseling that you'll do. What do you notice about well, let me turn down the lights here so that's a little bit more legible. Okay, so what do you notice about this picture? What's happening there?
Looks like a beautiful place.
Yeah, it's a pretty place. What do you see in the picture?
It's like water, trees, and ground, dirt. I don't know.
It's very, very clear picture. The water is very clear. It almost looks like you could just drink that water. What do you notice about the surface of the water?
It's peaceful.
It is very peaceful. There is a concept in addiction that relates to this body of water. And the concept is called homeostasis. Does anybody have a definition for that term before we move forward?
I think it's just a state of equilibrium where, like, the body is in total balance.
Great, you cut to the chase. It takes me a while to get there when I'm doing this with adolescents. But yeah, you absolutely got there. It is a state of balance. Natural state of balance. This comes to the root word homo, meaning same, stasis, meaning state. Our body really likes balance. And so anytime a person ingests a substance, anytime a person engages in an activity that feeds their addiction, you're going to create waves in your natural balance, in your natural homeostasis. Our bodies really strive on a daily basis to do this. Now, folks that are bipolar or struggling with anxiety or depression, that homeostasis has been disrupted. This is where this term can be applied in most situations in mental health. We want to, and some people, you know, if their serotonin levels are low, what we talked about with antidepressants last week, some people, their homeostasis may be down here. They're not even functioning up to level. A person that does a lot of meth, that does a lot of damage to their brain, they're going to start functioning down here and be using meth just to try to come up and feel normal, their balance. So this is how I represent homeostasis. So let's say that this is a vodka tonight, and I go ahead and I'm going to parcel this out because I really need the water after my dinner. But let's say I down this whole thing and then some. I'm going to throw off my body's natural balance. So I'm going to become intoxicated. How do we measure intoxication with alcohol? Because you can measure levels of intoxication.
Is it like just how much of it is it like with the breathalyzer, like it measures how much of it's in your system?
Absolutely. BAC, blood alcohol content. Breathalyzers can do that. Blood tests, we are looking for, and we're going to get into that in just a moment. So my blood alcohol content after 20 minutes goes up quite a bit. And what does somebody feel when they're drunk? Somebody said happy. Somebody said relax. I put a bunch of these. We'll just go ahead and Sorry about the sound effects. This was a long time ago. I made this for children, or not children, but teens, so I'm trying to get their attention. I know I'm not teaching to a bunch of teens, but it's applicable. Hopefully it livens it up a little bit. So yeah, somebody said relaxed, happy, euphoria. You know, you feel somewhat high. You feel somewhat numb. People drink too much. What happens? Pass out, lose consciousness. So people get sleepy. Their heart rate goes down. Their respiration decreases. People tend to get hungry when they're intoxicated. So what can you expect in a few hours after my vodka wears off?
It's gonna go down.
Yes, blood alcohol content is going to go down. That corresponds with this dip, you know, this homeostasis. You know, every day we have like little dips. We might have, okay, well, I was late for class and I feel bad about it, or I'm not going there with you, Sonia. That's okay. And then I had.
It's okay.
I'm just making an example. And then so maybe we turn in all of our. I got my assignment done for addiction and family counseling, and I feel good about it. So we have little peaks and valleys, but nothing too major. But when we take a substance or engage in an addictive behavior, we risk this tidal wave to our homeostasis. So now with alcohol, anytime you have someone that goes into withdrawal, you can expect the opposite of what they felt while they were intoxicated, because your body's trying to create balance. So, sorry, just bear with me. Okay. So a person, what is a person like when they have a hangover? Who? I've had a hangover. Who has had a hangover? Okay, all right. So three hands go up. All the folks that have tried alcohol have had hangovers. That's one of the bad things about alcohol, is it does have some pretty significant withdrawal symptoms. So a person is feeling achy. A person, you know, and they were numb before. You know, your lips get a little bit numb. Your body feels just a little bit tingly. Your face, you know, may get really flushed. So when you're coming down where you were relaxed, now you're stressed. Now if this was a chalkboard and I took my nails and, you know, ran them across it, it's going to be like the worst thing ever. Sensitive to noises. Where a person was relaxed, they're going to be anxious. What alcohol does is really disrupt sleep as well. Alcohol really impairs REM sleep. It impairs our body's restorative sleep. And so people are typically, with a hangover, you know, they may pass out, but when they're really going through this withdrawal, they're going to be awake. They're not going to feel good. Your blood pressure is going to be higher, and you're definitely going to experience some dysphoria. So what happens in the brain that causes these very, very significant and sometimes very harmful effects on folks? So we're going to go back to our cellular biology, and I won't go over ad nauseum our normal cell. We did that last week. But we do have a normal cell here. And let's say that this is actually now, let's equate this over to a bacterial cell that is on your body somewhere. And let's say that we go to the nurse and we need to get a steroid shot because we're fighting off an infection. What is the nurse going to do before the nurse gives us a shot?
Clean your skin off.
Absolutely. They're going to clean our skin off with what?
Alcohol.
Absolutely. Why?
To disinfect or kill the bacteria.
It is going to kill it. Alcohol is very necrotic to cell. I mean, it causes cell, it kills cells. What it does is it breaks down this membrane, and those bacteria is very effective on killing cells. And so you think about, well, we ourselves, we are made up of these billions and billions and 100 billion brain cells. Wow, we're ingesting this substance. That's pretty amazing that we're not dying. So let's talk about why it doesn't. Let's talk about why it creates an effect and does not kill us. So I have a picture on the on the video up here, and my picture is a trampoline. What's going on in that video, in that picture? Poor little girl. Okay, yeah. The little girl has had an accident. I mean, I don't know what happened. I just pulled this.
Looks like her legs went through the springs, and then she smacked her face
Yeah.
on the rest of it.
That poor little thing. What happens with this trampoline if I start detaching all of these little springs here?
They're going to fall to the ground.
Everybody's going to fall to the ground. The trampoline's not going to work, basically. If we were to go back to, and this is how I used to, I'll go into a little more detail since this isn't a high school audience. If we were looking at that diagram of, from last week, the neurotransmission, this being your cell down here, this is your presynaptic, and then you've got your dendrite down, and this being your axon, and then a dendrite down here receiving the chemical message. It's going this way. So how alcohol, and I haven't been able to talk to a college class so I actually get this, so it's great. So when alcohol starts to work in your brain, it starts to do the same thing to your cells. So if you have a very high blood alcohol level, what's happening is it's starting to really affect the membrane here, and especially the axon. There is something called a sodium and potassium pump that conducts electricity down the axon and forces it forces neurotransmission to work. It forces the chemicals out. When you have alcohol in your system, you disrupt this sodium, and I'm not going to go into this much detail on a test, but you disrupt the sodium-potassium pump, and it's an ionic process. The electricity flows down here, lets the chemicals out. It's basically like taking all of the springs off of the trampoline. It's not able to conduct that electricity, not able to send that energy down. Like a trampoline sends the energy right back. It's not able to send that energy on. So in effect, what you are doing when you're drinking alcohol is you are shutting your brain down. You may not necessarily, and alcohol does kill cells. When you are ingesting alcohol at some point in your body, especially your brain, there is something called Korsakoff syndrome. It's otherwise known as wet brain. And you see this in chronic alcoholics, like the lady that drinks vodka out of the sack, plastic bottle. You see this with chronic alcoholics where they lose memory. They lose vast chunks of their memory. It's basically like we talked about the pruning. With this, you're actually eliminating cells. You're causing some massive damage to your brain. So actually, when people drink alcohol, they're actually killing cells, but not all of them die, but most of them get affected. So let's talk a little bit about that effect and how that happens. Again, we've got the electrochemical process. I didn't know I had this slide here. It's been a while since I gave this one. So, all right, there's my sound effects again. Yeah, we're used to the electricity, but when we drink alcohol, we start to shut down this electricity. So then there's no chemicals. Basically, they're all locked up there. They don't get released. And generally speaking, when you first start to drink, what's the first thing that is affected?
Your judgment.
Yeah.
The thinking brain.
kind of you're up here. Generally speaking, what alcohol does is this isn't universal, but it gives you a good rule of thumb. It starts to work from the outside of the brain in. And so we kind of have our higher functioning stuff on the outside. Well, we have our sensation, sense of touch is up here. And so things become a little bit numb. You see the cheesy John Wayne movies where they give me a shot of whiskey and then pull the arrow out of my whatever, I mean, there's a little bit of anesthesia to it, but it's still, it does give a little analgesic property. Sense of touch is affected. Down here, our cerebellum, we have a lot of our movements. It doesn't take a whole lot before a person's coordination is affected. Basically what's happening is you're starting to shut your brain down from the outside in. If I were, well, let's say that you guys could see my desk at work. And if you guys saw my desk at work, you would see an L shape with a computer here and a hutch here. And on virtually every corner of my desk is a piece of paper. And so let's say that I get done teaching class tonight, and I start thinking about all of those pieces of paper. If I'm an alcoholic, what am I going to do?
Would you even think about them
If I was an alcoholic? I probably would, but if I started thinking about it too much, I'm going to take a drink. Because, you hear people all the time, man, I had a tough day. I just need a drink. Man, I've had a rough week. Let's go get a drink after work. Why? It starts to shut down all of these thoughts that were right there at the surface. It's what you're thinking about. So if I go have a couple of beers, if this truly was vodka, I'm not going to worry about my presentation to my addictions and families class, and I'm not going to worry about all those papers on my desk. That's the stress relief. That's the benefit. When you start to teach or start to talk to people about their addiction has, on some level, helped their survival, at least in their own brain. They've gotten some benefit out of it. And that's hard for us, people, I think people that used to work in the field, the old model was, don't validate any of that positive experience because we don't want to reinforce them going back and drinking. I don't really buy into that because you have to validate that person on some level. And you have to say, you just get, God, you're an idiot. You're drunk every day. That's just stupid. We may want to say that, but that's probably not going to be effective for your counseling. It's important to recognize that each one of these substances that this person is using or has used, or whatever behavior they're engaging in, on some level has been functional and been reinforced because they've enjoyed it or it served a purpose for them. So if we're going to make a difference with that person, what would be an effective approach?
To have something that will replace what alcohol used to give them.
Absolutely. So it's important to figure out what it was that alcohol or whatever behavior or substance we're talking about was giving them. Very good. Very good. So our sense of touch, our thoughts, as we go in a little bit more, our judgment starts to become significantly impaired. I can drive fine. How many beers have you had? Only 6. I'm good. Just had a 6-pack. It's all good. Give me those keys. People start to lose their ability to make rational decisions. Where on the outside, somebody that's sober is like, God, that's not a good decision. Who's that dude over there? Man, I think he's looking at me wrong. I'm going to go over there. Man, I'm going to slide this dude out. Or all kinds of bad decisions, are made under the influence of alcohol. The very reason is because it's shutting our brain down. It's shutting down our ability to think. It's also, I mean, I've had teens, you know, argue with me. I'm better at pool after I start drinking. Well, no, actually, no, I am. Well, you know, how do you play pool normally? Well, I'm normally kind of anxious and fidgety. Well, no, it wasn't that it make you better. It took away some of that anxiety that you were anxious about the pool game or whatever. So it actually doesn't enhance any type of physical or mental activity. It may reduce some anxiety temporarily. So what happens if a person drinks and drinks and drinks and drinks too much?
You shut all your things and drink down, and you just go to the basic survival drink.
Yes, yes, you're shutting all this thinking down, and eventually, you know, somewhere in here, a person loses consciousness. A person passes out. And on some levels, I view that as a survival mechanism. To stop you from consuming more, absolutely. If you're passed out, you're not going to drink anymore. Hopefully your friends aren't going to force stuff down you when you're passed out. So yeah, you're gonna lose consciousness. The danger there is if somebody's in a passed out situation, their blood alcohol level is dangerously close to, you know, lethal. It's very toxic at that point. You know, if alcohol starts to shut down, you know, these parts of your brain, you're dead. Because that's, generally speaking, alcohol is a central nervous system neurological depressant all the way through. Again, I start with this chemical because there are a few that are, you know, like I talked about meth and coke doing all this with dopamine. This just works on everything, but it shuts it down. So here's a blood alcohol concentration chart. If you're working with an alcoholic or an adolescent, should you use a blood alcohol concentration chart?
How effective will it be? I mean, before using it, what would the purpose of using it be?
What would the purpose of it be?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of using it, because I'm new to that. I don't know, so that's why I'm asking that kind of question.
Okay. The purpose of using it, well, I kind of led into it with I put in alcoholic or adolescent. There's two differences there. With an adolescent, I'll give you a case study.
Okay.
When I worked inpatient at Mount Lake Hospital, a 12-year-old was admitted to our children's unit that came from the Bass ER. And he was acutely intoxicated on alcohol when he went to the Bass ER. He was charcoaled. He was treated to try to, you know, remove, because he was at a very dangerous, lethal dose of alcohol. You know, he came to, they sent him to Mount Lake because they thought, you know, this kid tried to kill himself. And so I was his counselor, and so I did 2 or 3 different types of assessments with him. I got to do some interviews with him. In talking with him, he said, this is the first time I ever drank. And I do believe that based upon what his parents said and from this, the situation surrounding it. I said, well, what happened? He said, well, some of my friends got together and we got some Jack Daniels and some Hot Damn. And Jack Daniels is a very potent whiskey, 80 proof whiskey. And Hot Damn is, I think that's like a cinnamon schnapps or something like that. It's got some type of, I said, well, what happened? I said, what, you know, tell me a little bit about that. Well, they were passing it around and they dared me to take some shots, and so I took 10 shots of Jack Daniels and 6 shots of Hot Damn. And so if you saw this little 12-year-old boy, this little 12-year-old boy is probably 80 pounds, if that. I mean, he's very slight, very slender, small for his age. And so, based upon that story, and I mean, he still stayed in for a month, but I don't think the kid was an alcoholic. He's 12. Basically, he said, I don't remember much what happened. From the parents, they found him behind what used to be, it dates the story, but they found him behind what used to be the armory here in Enid, and he was passed out, and his friends were gone. His friends got scared, I guess, when he lost consciousness and ran away, and luckily somebody found him. So he was found passed out, unconscious, unresponsive. So truly what happened there was alcohol was shutting his system down, was killing him.
So he wasn't really trying to commit suicide. I mean, did you?
No, I have full faith, and given his affect, he was just helpless. He was like a deer in the headlights. Said, I really didn't know what was happening. He got decent grades. I mean, the kid had A's and B's. He wasn't, the depressive scale. I mean, he had some anxiety, but he wasn't a depressed kid. He'd never indicated a desire to commit suicide to anybody. And the mom talked with the friends, of course, at that point, and his story was validated. So, if you're looking at somebody his size, you're looking at, he was, I really anticipate he was about 80 pounds. He couldn't have been 90 pounds. Little kid. I mean, he was that tall, little kid. So if you're looking at drinks, number of drinks here on this axis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He was at 16. Well, right here, if you have 10 drinks and you're 90 pounds, that's lethal. That's the LD50 lethal dose for 50% of the population on alcohol is 0.50. So go ahead. He's approaching 1% of his blood being alcohol. That's what this represents. 0.02. Think about how potent that is to a person's system, though. Somebody that's at the legal limit, right here, 0.10. 1/10 of 1% of your blood is alcohol. It doesn't take a whole lot of alcohol to really significantly impair humans. And 1/2 of 1% will kill you. So that's where, and so if you're working with families, if you're working with, and really this is the treatment protocol. If you're working with adolescents that are starting to drink, starting to use substances, and they're starting to get some consequences, a substance use disorder, low or mild, do some education with them. This is absolutely protocol across the board for people that are mild substance use users. So anything that you get here in this class, and I try to do this on a personal level, I try not to get